And we are live.
Good morning, Fantasmagorium. The program that you are proud to present is Missions, Matches, and Masks. It is the Macquarie time! Buckle up and pray that you dig the style from here on out, folks. Variety and surprises, your missions may become impossible. Hey, puppers. Obviously, Tom Cruise is back as Ethan Hunt, and he is joined by Rebecca Ferguson, Jeremy Renner, Simon Pegg, co-starring Sean Harris, Alec Baldwin, and Ving Rhames. Oh, and by the way, everyone's been disavowed. Again, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to discuss Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Should any of your team be drunk or interrupted, the secretary will disavow the stream. I am Scotty R37. I've been disavowed. Kat has been disavowed. Ernesto's working for the CIA. And Steve has also been disavowed. How are you guys doing?
I accept.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. I was worried you would feel badly about being disavowed.
Yeah.
No. I've been told that this mission is to fail per his assignment at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
But Ernesto is our guy on the inside. He's the one who's going to help us out.
Yes. So this is the movie which came out the same year as Spectre, a few months before, and it has the same plot as Spectre, basically, but it does it a lot better in terms of being a funner movie. But we'll see how the panel feels about it.
I do understand your parallels. And there's also something that I found in my sort of research, if that's a thing that I actually do, is that these movies started to coincide somewhat with Fast and Furious movies. And this movie is the first time I was like, okay, they're just superheroes.
I don't know. I didn't feel like superheroes, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple things, like when Ethan's running down the hall after Ilsa helps him escape, and the guy's shooting the machine guns, and inexplicably every shot is missing.
Silly.
When the car flips
I've found that in all of these movies so far. So
that's true. Well, the big one is when the car accident happens at the end of the first part of the chase, where it just bam, 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 flips, and they're just, I did like that Ethan was kind of messed up though from oxygen deprivation. That was good because it's like, okay, that tracks.
I counted. I counted how many times Ethan Hunt died during this movie, and I was like, "Oh no, you're dead."
Yeah,
and it was just like, I guess it's a Tom Cruise movie, so no, he's not.
Yeah.
And so it strained my incredulity.
Every one of these movies has done that for me. So like I said, par for the course.
Really? The first one seemed a little okay. So let's do what we always do, and let's start with Ernesto. Ernesto, when was your first experience seeing Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation?
Well, as I've mentioned before in the other reviews, I can pretty much track where I was in life when these movies come out. And I was transitioning from my job at the restaurant to my job as a social worker when this movie came out that year. And I remember me and my dad went to see it. But before we went to see it, we saw the trailer for it, the first one, which I like to say is like the second best trailer for the franchise. The third one being the one for... Hang on, sorry, she grabbed something. I'm trying to get out of her mouth. Give me a sec.
Oh, you got to do better with phrasing.
No, she's not supposed to eat it. Otherwise, we're going to be back at the hospital again.
All right.
Yeah. But after Ghost Protocol being the third best, I think this one's the second best trailer. And I love this movie.
Okay. Do you remember where you saw it?
Yes, I saw it at Cinemark. By that point, I wasn't going to the AMC too often. I only went to the AMC very rarely, because they have an IMAX screening over there. But I always focused it very closely, so Cinemark was my go-to. But Cinemark did have the Extreme Digital brand, which is basically IMAX, but without the giant screen, in a way.
It's a big screen. It's just not as big.
Yes, but it was a packed house, and I think every single Mission Impossible movie since Rogue Nation has been packed, at least for me. But this movie, to me, out of all of them, had everything up until this point. It had the Syndicate, being like the overarching villain for like the next phase of this franchise. It has the action, the stunts, just enough humor to not be a comedy. Great performances from supporting cast, and the best introduction to a female spy that I had seen up until that point. And I had seen Rebecca Ferguson before. I believe she was in the Hercules movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There was a Hercules movie with The Rock?
There was.
Huh.
I think it released the same weekend as Lucy with Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Yeah.
So she became my favorite character out of this movie. And probably the reason why I love this movie so much, because her and Ethan were like PB&J.
She was in Hercules, by the way.
Thank you.
2014, year before this movie.
The year we made contact. Kat, what was your first experience watching this movie?
I think I waited a couple weeks before I got out to see it, and I saw it at my local theater. Wasn't too busy, and I really liked it. It's like I thought it was. I like that right off the bat. You have a better villain than the fourth one. It's like you could just tell, like that opening sequence, or not the opening scene was great too, where Tom Cruise jumps on the plane, and they actually had behind the scenes where he's actually hanging on the side.
That was the best part.
That was pretty awesome, and I did.
No, the other door.
Yeah, with the other door. I did dig how he gets out of the plane with the all the missile stuff. That was pretty cool.
And it became a meme instantly.
Oh, Benji.
But the record store scene, oh god, that was great, because you see Solomon sitting there in the background, kind of minding a business. And when they I love how they flipped the whole your mission. Normally, your mission would be to infiltrate this organization and destroy it, but we are on to you, Mr. Hunt. And I thought that was great. And now he's just standing there, Solomon, just staring him down, ready to execute the one. I'm like, oh god, that was a great introduction for a villain. I thought, again, the movie has some really great set pieces in it. I admit that the first set piece at the opera was almost similar to the final set piece, where they go into, the prime minister in terms of a big gala type event. Usually these movies try and have very different feeling set pieces, and those were a little bit similar. Like the one in Morocco is obviously radically different, which it should from the first. But I was really right. I really liked this movie. I thought it was firing on reasonable cylinders.
Well, when did Quantum of Solace come out?
2008.
So before this.
Well before.
Yeah, almost 7 years before.
I don't know.
A few months.
I know that going to assassinate someone or going to have a meeting in an opera isn't brand spanking new to the 21st century, but I just felt, I was like, oh, all right. And part of the reason, I don't know the name of the gentleman who did the soundtrack, the score. Could you possibly rip off anyone else, like specifically Bond? Like, this does get to the point of like parody, or at least emulation. Like, there is something about this that it does. These are taken from Bond movies. The motifs, I believe, is the word I'm looking for. But yeah, no, there were many things that I was like, oh yeah, no, I've seen this, but I haven't seen it done this way, which is interesting. So
Joe Kramer was did the score.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. He made a great mixtape.
Well, I mean, it kind of shows how the genre, especially mentioning Bond, just borrows from each other or repurposes from each other. Like, and it taking place at an opera scene is kind of like one of those very, if done well, can be a very tense sequence, because you're supposed to be doing it in plain sight and no one's none the wiser until at the last minute, all hell breaks loose.
Sure.
It goes as far as to almost hitting the exit the fire alarm.
Steve,
Yes.
as a longtime fan of the Mission Impossible series, both television and film, when was the first time? What was your first experience with Rogue Nation?
It was about 3 hours ago.
Mine
4 hours
too,
ago.
yo.
So did it taste like milk?
I loved it.
Perfect.
Really?
I absolutely loved it. In fact, I think this might be my favorite in the series.
Oh
I had
my
so much fun with it.
stars!
I know, right? I
Let's
like,
go.
I liked the writing. I thought it was fun. I loved it. I thought it was really good.
Oh yeah. It's the
You know,
McQuarrie effect. That's
obviously, you know, there's the silliness of action movies, but that's, like I said, that's part of all of these movies. So I just come to at this point in the saga, I'm like, okay, I'm over the silliness. I accept the silliness, and Ethan Hunt dies in every movie, or should have died several times over by now, but that's okay.
Oh, I was like 7 times in this movie.
And even though I hate the pants off of Alec Baldwin, I thought he was fine in this movie. He played his part well. It was great to see this. I like this crew. It's great to see Jeremy Renner back. I assume that he's not long for this this world in this franchise. I don't know.
Let's hope not.
Right. But I liked him in this role, and yeah, man. I like this. I like the plot. I thought the writing was a huge step up. So there you go. There you have it.
Yeah, this one had a lot more like character. Like it felt more like a cat and mouse type puzzle box. Like, how are we gonna figure this out? As opposed to like Ghost Protocol was like, oh, we have to do the one action thing for the next action thing.
Right.
Very plot driven. Where this
it
one
wasn't really strung. Yeah, it didn't feel strung together like between action set pieces. Right. There's actual narrative storytelling happening.
Right, and you had the whole
like,
subplot with Ilsa Faust and her playing both sides or whatever, and Ethan trying to figure that out, and then you had the whole thing with, trying to figure out what Solomon Lane's up to and how that goes, and it's like, and then adding the bit where Hunley thinks that Ethan's invented the syndicate, which we mentioned he got that assignment at the end of Ghost Protocol, and he's been spending the last year or so and they reference some world events that they try and tie in, like, oh, another one flight's gone missing and stuff like that. Right. And I thought, okay, that's kind of fun, and I like that it's trying to get back to the, the actual character logic of puzzle box aspect of the movies a little bit, and they tie it back to the first one and the previous one where we talked about how, I think you said it, Steve, the previous movie seemed like there was a lot of dumb luck and was getting really stupid, and then Hunley brings that up right at the beginning where they're trying to shut him down precisely because of all that of their stupidity.
Especially coming off of Ghost Protocol where nothing worked and they made it
exactly.
Well, and they do absolutely reference, hey, I just want the Kremlin, but Buckaroo Brothers. Hey, Buckaroo Brothers Productions. Thank you for being here. Sorry. I will star and will get back. But isn't that like lampshading? Isn't that just sort of saying it's like it's continuity, which is absolutely, once you're in the 5th movie of the franchise, you definitely want to sort of reward people who have been there since the beginning. But isn't it just like, oh, and then when he did this and then did this, like, it's, I don't know. Is it pandering? I felt rewarded, but I felt it was cheap. Because it was referred to by people that I didn't know. Like, Brant is there, but I only met Brant in the last movie. Like, I'm at this point, because it's a recurring set of characters, I'm like, so is anybody in danger? Like, in our team? Because I've seen Ethan Hunt die like 4 times by this point. And now I'm just like, so they're invincible, and I get to see the team.
The only person that was in danger in this team was Benji at the end when he gets taken.
Well, no.
This wasn't about. It wasn't about killing the team.
Drowned to death.
Right, but what's kind of like in a James Bond movie? Up until No Time to Die, nobody in the core group of Bond heroes ever dies. I mean, Felix was the closest up to that point in License to Kill, where he nearly got, murdered by the shark. But even he only had sparse appearances in the franchise. But up until No Time to Die, it's like Bond, Felix, M, Q. Even in the movies where Q went in the field a couple times, nothing bad ever happened to him. So it's kind of the same with Mission Impossible,
Well, no, it's not the same with Mission Impossible, because in the first act of the first film, we saw most of the team die. There was a threat of harm.
Right, but it was also characters we didn't really know or care about.
Right.
They just kind of all.
But that's
They were
the beauty of
throwaways.
the Brian De Palma version, is that in that first act, you do get a sense of camaraderie between the team.
Yeah.
And you are familiar somewhat just because they were movie
Oh,
stars
barely.
of the time.
Barely, dude. Barely.
What, like Emilio
I mean,
Estevez?
if you're trying to make some kind
Young
of,
Guns? No, I'm not.
if you're trying to make some connection, I don't agree.
To the same franchise that we're reviewing currently?
No, is that what I said, or are you just inferring this in your head? Because that's not what I said.
Well, what did you say, sir?
I said if you're making what I consider to be a false comparison.
And what was I comparing?
I don't know. You want to say it again? I'm not going to repeat it. Let's stay on track.
So what I'm saying is that there was a sense of danger to the team, and that was from the original. That was from the original film.
But this movie has nothing to do with the team being in danger. It doesn't.
But it's called Mission Impossible. Don't you think the team should be in danger? Don't you think that people should be picked off?
The mission is the mission wasn't for the team. The team didn't get the mission. Ethan Hunt got the mission.
What we had in the second, third, fourth movies as well, Scott.
So I don't understand. I don't understand the criticism.
Well, no, Kerry Russell died in the third one. No, nobody died in the first or in the second one. Everyone died in the first one. And then in the last one, like what I'm saying is that it's sort of turning into a PG mayonnaise. In my opinion of this, it's becoming very formulaic, and there are no, like, we know they're going to win. No one is actually in trouble.
Very few movies that go more than 2 or 3 in a series that don't become formulaic. So I just expected
it. Fine, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I expected it to do that.
Okay. Well, and I suppose that's why I'm more putting it in the category of like a Fast and the Furious than I am in a James Bond, because there is more legacy to James Bond. And when it comes to a Fast and the Furious, it's like, oh, okay, they're just turning into superheroes. And that's where I am right now in the series, is that they're just superheroes who can live, die, do anything. They'll always get out of trouble. They're all the same team now after 2 movies. And it's just like, it's fun to see the stunts. Like, the set pieces are great, but in terms of narrative consequence, there's nothing. This is turned from a Brian De Palma edgy adaptation of spycraft in the early 90s, and now it's turned into a coloring book where all your favorite heroes win. So what I want is to rub a little bit more 90s on this.
Like in Star Trek?
Yeah.
Where the characters live?
No, but it's turned into, like, it is produced by Bad Robot. It is modern Star Trek.
No, I meant old Star Trek.
I meant old Star Trek.
Like, the Next Generation, the original series, the core group is
but
always
I'm talking about modern sensibility of movie making. It is formulaic. Everyone wins. No one gets hurt.
It does have a legacy with the original series, though. That was on for 70 episodes, 80, something like that.
With the introduction of the Syndicate, absolutely, yeah, because that was like when they were not doing Cold War stuff. The original television show was doing the Syndicate, and that was chaos to get Smart's control, and it was just because we needed bad guys. All right, and this is a great introduction to that. My primary problem with this movie is, who's the guy who plays the evil ginger?
Sean Harris.
Sean Harris, who was also in Prometheus as a very charming character. I don't like that actor. I was made to hate him, and I do. I don't find him charismatic because he's playing like when they didn't make Sean Harris into Simon Pegg. I thought that was going to pay off. I thought that was going to be like, so I don't get to wear a mask, and it's like, oh, you get to wear a mask, but it's going to be Sean Harris, and then Ethan Hunt's going to do something, and he's going to find out that he killed Benji. And I was like, oh, this looks good because they look somewhat similar, and they're from the same, gene pool and whatever. And I was just like, okay, yeah, this looks. And then they didn't do anything with it because we got to keep Simon Pegg. And I was just like, oh, there are so many things that I was anticipating and I was like bracing myself for. And then I found out that no, it's fine. Just exit through the gift shop. I found this movie so typical. It wasn't interesting. It was like it was exciting for the action.
That's been my argument about all these action movies.
Right. And this is your favorite.
I fucking hate. That's why I don't like these kind of movies because
I know, but this one's your favorite, dude. This is the one where I finally caught up with your opinion.
This might be the most fun I had with these movies so far. This one.
Good for you.
All these films are also up to this point made to be very accessible.
Yeah.
Like there's very limited things tying them together. So you could walk into this movie having not seen any of the others.
Well, Ving Rhames.
And still be fine with it. No, I mean still be fine with it, not lost.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be lost if this was your very first.
Well, it's like a heist movie. It's like the heroes if it's told from the perspective of the thieves that they're gonna win. It's just how are they gonna do it? It's like how much are they gonna tell you about it?
Buckaroo Brothers says, great set of movies based off of the 60s and 70s TV show. Yeah, no, and also 80s. Nimoy took over. Buckaroo goes on. Nimoy took over for Landau in the TV series. Oh, absolutely, for sure. And also, Buckaroo says, hey, cat.
There are
the big scene in this movie, of course, is the underwater vault. And I thought that was really good. Even on first viewing, I'm trying to hold my breath as long because the scene mostly unfolds in real time.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't do that.
I wasn't crazy. I wasn't crazy about that scene.
Oh, yeah?
It's just, I was like, I don't know.
The only thing I did.
It was a little too many mishaps. It was a little too, I don't know, a little too cringe. Some of the cringy stuff. But it's fine. I have a thing about these kind of movies where silly stuff happens that would never really happen in real life.
But he did have on the behind the scenes. He actually did have to hold his breath for up to 3 minutes when they did it, and that was something that on the behind the scenes he was actually really nervous about actually doing it. And I think his son was there, like trying to pep him up for it, because when he dives in, that actually does go down to the underwater part of the set that they built. So they're actually filming part of that in real time, and he's like, this is like one of the more dangerous, because the thing when he's hanging off the side of the plane, obviously you can't see the harness and vest underneath it. But here, which obviously again is a ridiculous thing, because obviously if you were doing that for real, the force, so that would just pull you right off. But with here, it's like that was him same with the Burj Khalifa, where he's scaling that with harnesses, which they digitally removed. But here it's like, no, he actually had to go underwater and didn't have a hidden oxygen tank or anything, and had to be down there for quite a while. And it's like, so I thought that was like, damn,
that's cool. Only imagine how many takes they went through it.
Oh yeah, because like she says, the more you exert yourself, the faster you're going to burn through your oxygen. Yep. So it's like it's taking you longer to do all the takes.
The lawyers and the insurance policy holder are just like, fuck.
Now, of course, I didn't buy with the extreme isolation of this base that they would have that high levels of security. It's like you could just put this out in the middle of the desert and have, a few standard vault locks on it and not need this level of biometric and water.
But it looks cool, Kat.
It did look
it's cool.
It's fucking cool. That's why we go and watch these things.
Well, that's what I said. I didn't say it was bad. I said it was cool.
There's always a very specifically designed place they have to break into, and I always love it because you can always imagine just how creative the production design people are getting into, okay, now what's this mission gonna look like? And I like when they just, just make it. It's like make magic, really.
Well, and not only that, but this is one of the first underwater sequences, if not the first underwater sequences of the Mission Impossible series. So, and it is better than any underwater sequence that I've seen. Although
more than a minute, right?
Sorry?
By sequence, you mean more than a minute long?
Well, I mean like set piece.
Okay, yeah.
I mean action sequence. Like
he
gets hit in the ribs.
I'm not counting the scuba diving scene from MI3. It is technically underwater.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, no, it's better than the underwater scuba diving scene from MI3.
Yes. The one thing that I just found it weird, and again, it's a nitpick. It's really not a negative, but it's an observation. Before he jumps, he hits the timer, and he's still up there for a few seconds. It was like, shouldn't you I feel like he should have just hit it after he took in the breath and then jumped. I just know he already lost like 10 seconds before he went in. So it was kind of like a cheat in a way.
Well, the sequence is kind of a cheat because he did.
He did.
No. I'm saying that he's supposed to hold it for this long, and you're supposed to be tracking because in the scene you're tracking how many seconds. And granted, he is holding it far longer than the minutes he started with. I just found it weird that he started it before he even took the breath. That's the only thing that I found. That's like, is that an editing issue, or do we just leave it in because, well, it's the best one we have? It's the best dive sequence.
Well, no, in terms of what Kat said, for the movie to be accessible, is that they just turned on the ticking clock and didn't expect you to think about it, because we have 3 minutes, and so 4.5, 5, 6 minutes later, we have 30 seconds left, and it's like, all right, fine, I guess, whatever, do what you will.
I mean, I suppose the thinking was that they wanted to synchronize, right? But the problem is you could have synchronized on the platform, take the breath, and then, I mean, they're all mic'd up.
That's what I was getting at. Just like if it's synchronized. I mean, granted, it still doesn't matter because he already runs out of time and he's still holding his breath, so it doesn't matter. The only observation reason why I brought it up, I'm just like, but why did you start it before you took the breath? That's the thing that never
that stood out to me too. I caught that. I was like, that's weird.
And again, it's not a negative. I'm just like, okay, that's a choice. It
is a negative. I agree with you. I think it's ridiculous as well, but yeah. I don't think these movies are supposed to be realistic in any way, shape, or form. They're meant to elicit excitement, and they succeed.
Yes, and I acknowledge that, Scott. That's not the point why I brought it up. It was just a creative choice.
Yeah, and it was fine. It was fine. I've seen music videos.
And once again, we have motorcycles. It must be in the contract.
Were they Ducatis?
I don't know.
I didn't even notice. Like, there are people who actually pay attention to the product placement of the vehicles. I didn't even notice.
I didn't either. But I'm like, okay, motorcycles. Here we go.
Yeah,
gotta have motorcycles in every scene. We gotta have a running scene and a motorcycle.
To answer your question, it is a BMW S1000RR.
Thank you very much.
And he also had the long hair for the sequence, so it kind of like. There was always that thing of one Mission Impossible, he's got short hair, the other one he's got the long hair. This one is like a perfect balance. But when he's on the motorcycle, I swear the hair grows a few inches.
It is middle of the road long hair, yeah.
I did like the bit in the car chase when he slams the car back around and then they see Luther and Brandt and they're just slack-jawed looking at him, and then they take off and Brandt's
had to take the SUV. You could have
had to have the 4x4. Right? They're under.
Don't start with me, man.
No, but the best part is when Ving says, or when Luther says, you want me to drive? I can do it. You want me to drive?
They became the odd couple overnight.
Oh, it was good.
That was another similar joke in the opening scene when they hear, when Brandt hears Luther on the line. It's like, Luther, you're supposed to be in Malaysia. He's like, I am in Malaysia. Benji needed help. He's like, no, I didn't need help. I just called asking for favor. That's not the same thing.
See, and I think I got more of a Skyfall out of that scene. Like the pre-credit sequence in this movie, I think is amazing. Like it reintroduces everybody except for what's her name? Because I don't know, unavailable, unnecessary to the script.
Oh, Paula Patton.
Paula Patton's gone. We don't need her no more. And then also, any mention of Julia? I guess we're just ignoring Julia because, Kat, don't look at me like that. Because I know what the answer to this is. So we're not talking to Julia because Ethan wants to protect her life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could tell they're trying to do something new with Ilsa when she proposes the idea to Ethan. It's like, we have two options. Either one, we can go and try and you can take me into the CIA, in which I will prove the syndicate is real, but you'll all get charged with treason anyway. Or we could just leave and run away together. And I'm like, I'm not buying that there's enough of a romantic connection or any romantic connection here at this point.
Oh, I bought it. I bought it lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrels.
It's like
Ethan loves the pussy.
I did like the line though when she says when
can we say
Ethan's
that?
like when he says, what about
yeah.
I like that when Ethan was like, well, what about Lane? And she's like, forget Lane. There's always going to be another Lane and always other people like us to stop him. I'm like, yeah, she's right.
Yep.
Yeah,
100%.
But the difference here is that at the end of the day, Julia is a civilian. And you can only put a civilian through so much until she's like, I love you, man, but I can't keep doing this with you. That's why I never had an issue with why they had to break them up the way they did in Ghost Protocol. Because, yeah, she was there with him, but it got to the point where even Ethan's like, they're never going to stop coming after us.
But he knew that before even getting involved. So fuck that. I don't.
No. I stand by it because it's the same thing with people when they marry soldiers and they marry police officers and firefighters. There's always the risk, and at some point,
no, I'm not putting it on her. I'm putting it on Ethan. Ethan knew that before he got involved, so you know what I mean. He knew better.
Yeah, but by MI3, they finally addressed, hey, he wants to settle down,
and then by the end of it, it's impossible.
Well, the thing is, he wasn't on the run from anybody, so it's not like she needed to leave. Because Steve's right. It's like when you marry. It's like, yeah, when you're in a relationship with a soldier or a cop or anything, it's like, yeah, something could happen. But is anybody targeting it? Because unlike in the James Bond movies where everywhere Bond goes, everybody knows who
Bond. My point of that was...
Don't interrupt Kat. Have you not been on this channel before? Don't interrupt Catherine.
Well, I was never able to finish my point. That's why I brought it up.
Shut your face, sir, until Catherine
unlike the James Bond movies where everybody knows who Bond is everywhere in the world that he goes, so he's not like a secret agent. Nobody recognizes Ethan anywhere he goes, so it's not like he's being hunted by anybody.
Right. Half the people call him Yuri.
This movie pretty much shows that they know who Ethan is.
Only in the first scene, but that wasn't the case in Ghost Protocol or the years between that.
But in every single scene, but in the common theme of this series is that someone is going to know, and it always gets disavowed.
Yeah, don't blow your cover.
But it is the common theme in the series. Someone is always going to peel the veil. And my earlier point about marrying a cop, a soldier, or a firefighter is that yes, the risk is always going to be there, but there is going to be that breaking point where the spouse who is the soldier, the cop, or the firefighter, or the one is always going to have a breaking point of like, I know what I signed up for, but now I'm tired of it.
Yeah, but it wasn't her decision; it was his, which I find to be bullshit. Because he knew before he even got involved. So he brought it on himself. I just don't buy it.
Well, at the end of MI3, they both jumped in it together. They were both. It was all open. It was all open right there. And
right,
then
which suggests that
at some point between MI3 up until Ghost Protocol, it was too much.
If I could just do a quick recap on what's happened on with Ethan and Julia. At the end of Mission Impossible 3, she has been kidnapped by Davian, and they do all of their stuff. Ethan rescues Julia, and they decide to go on their honeymoon. So whatever they did on their honeymoon. And then in the following movie, it was all about how Ethan had faked Julia's death to make sure that no one would follow her. And so that means that Ethan cannot follow her anymore. They are not together. That's my assessment. And then, but it's still, I don't know. I'm glad that we have sort of disassociated with the fact that Ethan has to fuck something every movie. But like at this point, Julia, I'm curious about Julia because she was a plot point for, one and a post-credit movie. And now it's just like, nah, it's all right. Don't worry about it.
I don't know. I have a feeling we're going to see her again.
I hope so. I love Michelle Monaghan. I've mentioned it several times.
By the way, you have warm hands.
Was that implying the British Prime Minister was gay?
I think so, but
Also,
I don't know.
Ethan has only
I
had
don't
two people in this
know.
franchise up until this point. So
I'm
What?
sorry, which?
Ethan has only had sex with two people in this franchise up until this point that we've seen. So
Well,
he
we
doesn't
haven't seen
fuck
any of
something
it
in every
yet.
movie, like you said earlier. He's not Bond, where he literally fucks everything in sight.
No, he's been topless in bed with Tandy Newton and Michelle Monaghan. I apologize. I mean your characters. I don't mean you specifically, although you specifically were.
Didn't he
Topless
sleep with
in
what's her
bed.
name in the first one? Or no?
They never showed it.
That was implied. Yeah,
It was implied, but they
absolutely.
didn't show it.
Yeah, you think it,
No,
Claire?
I didn't get
The
that.
only character's name that I remember.
That was pretty much implied. That was
I didn't get
fully
that.
implied that they hooked up.
Jim Phelps said you tasted the fruit.
You
That's
tasted
right.
it.
He did. He did.
Yep.
That's right. He did.
I didn't
Well,
get
and
that.
That's right. He says,
that was
"Thou
his
shalt
plan,
not
though. Was
covet a
the
man's wife."
lure? He knew, right?
I
He
didn't
says,
get
"Thou
that.
shalt not covet another man's wife." That's what Jim
Mhm.
Phelps tells him at the end of the movie.
Well, Job.
Yeah, but Phelps, you put her in there. You put him in.
Yeah, I
that
know he did, which is
You
why
know,
he
he
flips
did
it
that.
on.
Yeah.
No, but I find it. The continuity of the series is reverential to the fans. Like I do think that there is value to the franchise. I'm not trying to say that this is bad. I'm just trying to say that I think that they've gone beyond. Like these guys have gone beyond their the realistic power that was established in the first movie, and now it just turns in. It is a
Well,
movie.
I agree with you, but I think that happened well before this movie. I think that.
When do you think it happened, sir?
2 and 3 for sure. But even
Oh,
in 2, there's things. that
Yeah,
happen.
I guess.
Come on, that's not realistic. Does it get progressively worse? Yeah, I agree with you. It gets progressively, more, unrealistic.
But this is a more generic action movie.
But maybe, and I'm not the guy to ask because I'm not an action movie fan. Because I think they're all like that. So I don't, unless it's like, the Raid.
But then again,
or
I'm
the Raid
asking,
2.
I'm asking myself, what is as Kat knows, as you know, as anyone who has ever been to the Fantasmagorium, if you haven't been here before, don't forget to like and subscribe. But I love James Bond movies, and James Bond is a superhero, but it doesn't come off like even in the Daniel Craig movies. I don't get the sense that he's a superhero.
Oh, I don't know. I see. It strains the same credulity for me that Bond has always had.
Especially in No Time to Die in the stairwell fight, when the grenade literally goes off he's not even behind the door halfway, and it just blows up, and he's fine. That kind of happened.
We always had an argument about that. By the way, you should check out our No Time to Die review when we argue about that.
Yeah.
And in the third Mission Impossible, when they're on the bridge and all the rockets are being fired, and Ethan
that's pretty silly.
Yeah,
but the way that was actually like the stunt itself was performed, there was something about the physics of it that made me be like, okay.
Yeah, it's very kinetic, so it's it gets a pass.
Like if I think back onto that, it's like, all of his ribs are broken.
Or Ghost Protocol when he has to drive the car off the parking garage lift in the climax to catch the bad guy. Yeah, that would have,
Yeah.
They've been doing this for a while now.
Driver's side airbags, if they deploy in your face and you're facing down, Your nose is broken.
This is the same franchise
Your teeth are gone.
This is the same franchise where Benji is convinced that Ethan is going to do it and succeed no matter what.
Yeah,
So
but that's
gonna
blind faith from.
Yeah, but I'm not going to harp too
Right.
much of it. The suspension of disbelief per movie, if it's executed well, I'm not stopping to think, oh, you shouldn't be moving by now. Of course, they're not going to be moving by now. From the first movie, he should have been the same chewing gum that was splat on the windshield of that train after the helicopter exploded.
But there was something more. Okay, yeah, no. You know what?
No, that explosion blasted him onto a speeding train. He'd be dead, man.
Exactly. So let's not harp too much on the incredulity here.
No, but guys, and I'm just going to undercut my entire argument right now. It's like, you know what? Fine. There was the bubble gum and the blow up with the helicopter and the blades next to your neck. The thing that I believed the most was when you were standing on a moving motorcycle with guns and then you jumped off of each other and then you attacked and you okay. You know what? If I'm asking for physical reality in my Mission Impossible movies, maybe I'm being a little bit nitpicky.
But I do give credit to the franchise, at least post Mission Impossible 3, that with them wanting to one-up themselves with each stunt and the amount of suspension of disbelief that you need, they do have a trade-off where they do give you the most grounded, hand-to-hand, very intimate sequences in each movie where just like, you know what, it's kind of like a tit for tat. Yeah, I can't believe for a second anybody can survive what you just did, but when you do something that I can definitely believe can happen, should happen, it's a good trade-off.
Yeah, but as soon as there is a mechanical robot under the sea that spins around and punches me in the gut as I'm trying to do stuff underwater, with goggles as my only protection to the environment, and then I have to go and collect these microchips key cards, and then all of a sudden, like, no, the entire underwater sequence was no. And the thing is that whenever you're watching a movie and you're watching a movie where someone has to hold their breath, that's adorable. But the thing is that when you're underwater, there's a thing called water pressure. And so that's, you can sit there and be like, oh, Ethan Hunt's going underwater. Well, but you have to be, where are they? They do lay it out very specifically as to where he is underwater. And it's just like, okay, so you dead. This is a cartoon. This is a superhero story.
The death is not that outside of the realm of possibility where you're not thinking about his ears popping.
See, you've got another one. That's a good one. Yeah. So, like, at a certain point, my heart was pounding. I was excited. I was like, how are they going to get out of this? And I was like, oh, right, it's called Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
So however they get out of it, it's going to be fucking impossible.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, is that as the series has continued, the colors have gotten brighter. The music has gotten louder. The stunts have got more incredible. But the thing is that I'm not watching anything where it's like competent people doing their jobs to protect the security of regular people. At this point, like, they do a little bit of lip service. And it's like, and then all these people will die. And it's like, yeah, they're not gonna.
No.
They're not gonna. We wasted no time getting over all the people who died in the Kremlin. We wasted no time.
I mean, it was brought up in this.
It was like, this is really important.
But as a Star Trek fan, you do know red shirts have their uses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. We can blow up planets if you're a Star Wars fan. Think of all the Alderaanians.
Hell, even as a Bad Robot production, what was it, the second movie? I think it was the second movie where you see all the red shirts just coming out of the blown chunk
Oh yeah, sure. No, they love,
and they're just out like water, just one after the other. We're just like, oh my god, will somebody plug the freaking hole?
no, it's terrible. Secret Robot disposes of red shirts like it's their fucking job.
Canadian Spider-Man says 10 meters, 30 feet below the water is 2 atmospheres of pressure, double sea level pressure. From there, it doubles at another 5 meters. No time for a swimsuit.
Yeah. Yeah, but man, like seriously, the thing is that if you get punched in the chops by a robot that spins, like not only are you're gonna get the wind knocked out of you, but your natural reaction is going to be to inhale deeply, and when you're underwater, that means that your lungs are filling with fluid. You are not doing anything after that.
In that scene, that's why I said it was cringy when the robot arm hit him. I'm like, you didn't need that. You didn't need that. The fact that he was having to hold his breath that long.
Yeah.
You didn't need him to get hit by this, by the robot arm thing. It was,
and that's why I compare it to the original, where it would have been an actual cinematic experience, I guess, of some sort, is to have that sound of water and him holding his breath with the register on his arm, and then him actually doing it. And then at the very end, not being able to open, like it would have felt the same as the first movie. And he just couldn't open the thing. And then he does, like, when competent filmmakers try and show someone who's drowning, they show their last breath to be the water that they are breathing into their lungs. And then Rebecca Ferguson shows up.
I mean, you say that
pulls the machine back, and then
filmmaker.
I'm just saying he doesn't have the same capability of Brian De Palma. You could agree on that.
The last defense I can give the water sequence is that the impact from the mechanical arm, or I guess the polymer arm, because it's not really metal down there.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's underwater, the impact is not as strong as it would be in the surface. That's my only counter argument.
He did look surprised.
And he was surprised. So it was one of those like a bump. It was like a bump, but not a punch, I guess.
I'm not saying I'm accurate. I'm just saying that was my problem.
None of us know what's accurate in this thing.
Well, nothing.
Like when we argue physics all the time in every room, I'm just like, oh, I didn't know we were all physicists here.
Well,
I'm the only physicist.
I'm a marine biologist. The sea was angry that day, my friend.
Yes, Moby said hi.
Although, so I don't want to get into. I don't like, when we start trying to review a movie that we wanted in our heads instead of what we got. So if we stick to that, I think we'll be good.
Well, if it was my choice, Ethan Hunt would have died underwater.
Well, if it was my choice, he would have died in the first movie, and we wouldn't have all these other.
Then you wouldn't have this movie, which you say is probably your favorite so far.
Yeah, this is your
favorite. I know. I wouldn't have got it. But I like the first one. The first one I still think is probably my favorite out of the series. But this one's up there, out of the 5 so far.
Now, as for what the plot of the movie is, when you find out that the syndicate was a proposed plan by the section chief to the prime minister, saying, "Hey, let's just skim some money from all of our territories or other projects bit by bit into these, other dummy accounts, so that way you could just do, whatever you want. We'll recruit other disillusioned agents and whatever, and just, and I love when that reveal, the way he says, Atlee, he couldn't be talking about that syndicate. And you see Hunley's reaction as he starts going through it, and like, that is great.
Yeah. By the way, Lane, when you really think about it, Lane is not the true villain of this movie. The true villain of this movie is that goddamn see-through receding hairline that Atlee carries throughout this movie. My freaking God, that was horrible to look at.
I thought you were going to talk about Simon Pegg's hair plugs.
No, Atlee is the big bad of this movie for sure.
Yeah.
Lane is just an angry Steve Jobs all throughout the movie.
But at the same time, it was kind of like, I'm sure there's plenty of governments which have their own funds for their black projects,
Yeah.
And so this is just 2.4 billion, which you think about it, even the UK's economy isn't it's a lot, but I mean,
Right.
compared to what Americans would be.
Don't make me
Because
say
Baltimore
no.
Stars, they have no money.
Right, but when he says I rejected it outright and all of that, it's like I think you would already have something like that, but okay, we'll go with it for the movie.
Right.
But I do like the checkmate move that Ethan memorized every single bank account. That was
bullshit.
That was a
That was
Bravo
bullshit.
moment. I
Well,
totally
Ethan
buy that.
suggests to him. Well, Ethan does suggest to him that he might be bluffing because he gives him
Yeah,
the one
but
account.
that's the bluff, right? That's the bluff.
Yeah.
The bluff is that.
Here's one account, and maybe I know them all, maybe I don't.
Maybe I know them all.
Because we see him destroy it. So, because here's the thing: if nobody knows the account numbers or what it is, they can't get it anymore. Because that's like same people.
Yeah.
There's some people who have Bitcoin and they can't unlock their vaults because they forgot their passwords, and those things are worth $1,000,000,000, and they're frustrated.
But the illusion is at least good enough where you know that he memorized at least some big numbers just to make sure that.
Some of them, but like I said, you can't get. That's the thing with accounts like that. You can't get it unless you have all of your very.
I'm not disagreeing. I just like that you do believe he at least memorized a good chunk.
Yeah. No, I don't.
To make the point across. Of course you should. Look at all the mission specific he has to memorize in every single movie. It's totally plausible.
Well, no, I think Scott's. No, I buy it with Scott because here's the thing. You looked at the increments that were on some of the counts, and they're really small, like 50 million, 36 million. To fill up 2.4 billion worth of that, the amount of numbers you would have, the account numbers, the banking address, all that stuff. Unless Ethan's got like an eidetic memory as a savant, I don't see how, because he was kind of racing the clock when he was reading all of that stuff too. So
yeah, you would have to have a photographic memory.
People work their best under pressure. Again, mission impossible.
Credit, but you can. You're more than welcome.
Well, I think it might have been a bluff because, like he says, he even told him.
I'm sure it was bluff. Yeah, and that's why you memorize the first one and you write it down the napkin. Like I can write down all the rest of them, motherfucker.
Like 50 million. Let Benji go.
Right.
But I did love how that whole reveal when Brand's like, "Oh, sir, Atlee came in and attacked the prime minister, but then you saved him when you shot him." Oh, that's true. Oh, yes, I love how that went down. It's so good. And then he finally,
know what I like
when Hunley nods and he finally gets it. I love that.
Yeah.
Over his memorization of the bank account numbers, which I think is absolute horse shit.
Yeah, is
that I do appreciate that they brought back that from Ghost Protocol that Ethan Hunt can draw. He can do his own police sketches. And I was like, yeah. And then even Luther notices, he's like, that's just a guy. That's what he looks like. But Ethan doesn't know that guy. But he knows that, or he trusts that girl.
Trusts her, yeah.
I liked that. And there is, like you've been saying, Kat, for a while, is that once we get into this era of Mission Impossible, we get to know Ethan Hunt a little bit more.
Yeah, he feels more like like in the first couple of movies, I felt it was like Tom Cruise playing Tom Cruise. Like 3 started giving him a little bit of a character, and I feel that since we've entered this 4 through 8 now, that it's more of like this is what Ethan Hunt does. Like the 4th one, everything's going wrong, but it still has the follow the breadcrumb trail type thing. And the 5th one kind of does that, but it has more layers with the characters and the cat and mouse and that type of stuff. But he still feels like he's Ethan. Like the time when Brandt gets in his face, he's like, "No, Ethan, we're not going to do this just so you can beat the guy who's beating you at every turn." Yeah. And that's kind of what Ethan does in each of these successive movies. He keeps having to think on the fly and stuff. But I feel he's a little bit more of a character. Like in the first one, it's like, okay, you put Tom Cruise in a Mission Impossible. I can see why this alienated people who are fans of the original series.
Yeah.
Yes. And with that that previous introduction of, hey, what's going on? Doggo! I can hear her.
She got the bone. That's what she's happy.
Yeah, I bet she did.
But
that's the thing, is that like there is, I don't know. Am I being a stick up the ass?
A bit, because these are just fun. They're like fun action movies, like a James Bond movie. A lot of the Bond movies are formulaic, and you just pick your poison as to which locations are exotic, which ones you like better. At least until you get to but that's before the Craig era when it became more of like an ongoing narrative thing. But the first 20 movies, it's like, pick your poison for a fun adventure where, Bond's going to save the day, all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what the Mission Impossible movies have been turning into.
Yeah, but doesn't it suck that everybody in the Impossible Mission Force is terrible?
Well, what sucks to me is that I don't like that they have the disavowalment thing every movie. Like, why can't you just do, like, I know the second movie was bad, but at least that was a standard mission.
It makes the mission more impossibler if you're going to get fucking fired if you lose.
Right, but it's like, the fourth one I kind of like that they kept failing because you can't, like, they had to, it does come off as, well, at the end they ended up saving the day, but it's like, dumb luck, and I like that did have consequence where they literally shut down the IMF at the start of Rogue Nation, so at least there was a carryover reason for them to get disavowed this time, rather than, or not. It's not that they were disavowed; it's that they were told to come in because the IMF has been disbanded.
Yeah.
But I like that wasn't just on a whim. It's like, no, here's the consequence of you guys flying by the seat of your pants and failing as much as you were in the previous movie is that you are going to get shut down and have to deal with that. But
Canadian Spider-Man in the chat says exactly what the Mission Impossible or the Impossible Mission Force says. Send lawyers, guns, and money.
Well, this just got derailed.
Well,
it did it.
Leave it to Canadian Spider-Man.
Well, and thank you, Canadian Spider-Man, for derailing. I like this.
You were having such a good time earlier.
There is a plausibility to a government-sanctioned, in the words of Dr. No, a government-sanctioned global policeman. I'm fine with that. If you erase the organization that is responsible for that policing, like that's Section 31 from Star Trek. That is an that's the Avengers. Like, I guess the Avengers got the Sokovia Accords from this. And it was like, why do you need to be overseen? And it's like, well, because you're very powerful people who have the capability of violence. Like, IMF is a power fantasy, not for the audience, but for Tom Cruise and Tom Cruise fans. Everyone wants to be Tom Cruise, and everyone wants to be Tom Cruise's friend. And the people who want to not be Tom Cruise, well, they get to pretend to be Benji. Like, I don't. Yeah, no, fine. This is a Universal Studios stunt show, and I get to see the loosely carried together plot. Like, I'm gonna have a blast. I'm gonna have a blast watching the rest of these movies. But am I gonna take them seriously in any way, shape, or form? No, this is a stunt show.
I don't know why you take any of these movies seriously.
Because I do. I take movies seriously.
That's
I like
not
them
what I said. These movies, not movies. These movies.
But
these movies aren't meant to be taken seriously, or as like this is happening. This is happening right now in the world. The IMF is out there saving the planet.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But these movies are being taken seriously to the point where, like, in 2027, they're going to introduce the best stunts category. I'm sure it's probably going to go in the technical Oscars, or they're going to put it in the regular Oscars for the first year, and the rest of the time it'll be the technical Oscars. But yeah, no,
very stupid. Very stupid, by the way. Not that they shouldn't be, awarded or rewarded. But you can't. How can you ask 7,000 members or 11,000, however many there are now, members of the Academy, to understand and watch every stunt in every movie?
Well, you can say the same argument about visual effects. Some of the best visual effects, you don't even know they're visual effects.
Correct.
So you can make the same argument there.
Yeah, that's why. This is why I don't like any of those kind of awards for the Oscars. It's too hard to expect the body.
It's obvious when you watch a John Wick. It's obvious when you watch a John Wick movie. You can see the stunt work on display, though.
You can.
But that's
can
choreography. That's
but
not.
it's right, and that's probably what
I
it's going to
guess.
turn into later on.
Right, but I'm saying I reject the argument that you can't tell what's stunt work and what isn't. Like, you're going to tell the difference between a CG dummy getting hit by a car versus an actual person doing a stunt like that.
Well,
You know?
Well, I mean, there's.
You know how there are. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I mean, what
I was going to say. You know
describe
how
what a
there's a
stunt is,
person.
You know.
I was going to say that you know how there's a person on set who says no animals were harmed in the making of this film. That's the person who will sit there and say, "Yeah, no, that guy did that stunt."
And most likely, it's going to go to the
And he
stunt
didn't die.
coordinator, anyways, right? Not the actual stunt person.
Well, it's kind of like, it's the same thing when you give best picture, best picture to the one producer.
To the producer, right?
Or the VFX Oscar goes to the supervisor who supervised it all, but not to the hundreds or thousands of animators who actually did all the work.
Yeah.
Well, out of the four of us, I liked this movie the least. So I'm going to go have a cigarette, and you guys can talk about it until I get back.
Why don't we? Before you do that, why don't we just? We're at an hour. We can give our ratings and call it a night.
Because I want a cigarette now. You guys give a couple more high
Like 2
points.
seconds.
I can give a couple more high points.
Let's do it. Let's just get out of here.
If you're in such a rush, I can get other high points to talk about. But
I was hoping for some high points. I was looking for something that the audience would enjoy.
They never explained it, but I wanted to know how Benji was beating the lie detector all the time, because he says he comes in there every week, and it's pretty clear that Hunley's right. He is the one who's giving Ethan all the access to the sensitive information. So it's like, how exactly is he beating the test? Because you see at the end that it blinks red a little bit when he says, "Oh, we are not friends," but it's like, how are you beating this?
In the words of Huey Lewis, I believe it was the power of love.
Well, Kat, you and I saw Black Bag recently, so I have an idea. He kept flickering up every single time. And because he loves Ethan and idolizes him so much, he puckered like nobody ever puckered before.
It's a good movie, Black Bag.
And I think the other way that he could also beat it is that there has to be some element of truth to a frustration that Benji has towards Ethan. Like, he loves him, he idealizes him, but it doesn't always come, with sunshine, flowers, and all that stuff. There has to be some level of frustration. So you could conceivably cheat the lie detect test by actually telling them, you know what, I like you, but here's what I fucking hate about you.
Yeah, there's enough. Yeah, right.
And also Benji being Benji, I'm pretty sure he found a way.
And I'm pretty sure that all these, if you're a field operative, now that Benji's a field operative, they go through the training to beat the lie detector tests. I know our CIA guys do.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this movie also leveled up Benji, not just in him actually getting a mask on, but he does jump into the fight, because in Ghost Protocol, he does get to he mentioned, oh yeah, I got field training, and he got to shoot someone. And this one, he actually threw hands. Granted, he didn't win in the end, but he did throw himself in there, knowing there was a potential that I'm like, I am fighting more than I can chew, fighting this Nazi in front of me.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, I did like. Oh,
yeah. No, say.
I was gonna say that I was gonna move on to the next thing once we finish talking about this bit.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm done. I finished right there with the Nazi.
I like the bit, like how he catches Lane in the end. I thought that was neat, putting him in the glass box to just do the circle. Like that was icing.
Yeah, it was kind of almost like Chef's Kiss, right? Because it's a callback to exactly how he, in that booth, in the record listening booth, where he catches Ethan Hunt.
Yeah,
I mean, it was. At first, I'm like, oh, they're just gonna kill him, and I'm like, obviously he doesn't kill him. So what's the whole story here?
Oh, like imagine he hit his head through the jaw when they threw the cage to the side. He had to hit his head at some point.
Yeah, he's probably crumpled on the floor. He doesn't fall too far, but I also like how at the end, Hunley has to plead to get the IMF reinstated, and they're like, "So this was a ploy for you to plan." It's like, I'm really not a fan of your methods or whatever. And the whole, I cannot confirm or deny any actions without express authorization of the secretary. Which, if I were the judge on the panel, I would have said, "Well, then who's the secretary? And get him in here so I could." And then we'll subpoena him. You know.
I liked it with, and then on the walkout when he's like, "Mr. Secretary," it was perfect because I'm like, "Oh yeah, the secretary's sitting right there."
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
And
in a way, I like that scene because I've done that before when I've had to testify, and when the attorney from opposing counsel was to come at me, I'm just like, I mean, I can't disclose it unless a judge orders me to do so. So really, if the judge so chooses to order me, I will. But if he doesn't order me, I ain't telling you shit.
That's great. I love also that Ving Rhames is the first one credited when the animated credits start at the end. It's like, yeah.
You know,
the last movie he got shortchanged.
I was going to make a joke about that. I was going to make a joke about in the last review when we talked about why he wasn't there, and I forgot to say it because we were all going back and forth that the reason I know Kat mentioned why he wasn't there, but my joke was going to be like, oh, we know the reason why. He was singing "I'm Every Woman" by Whitney Houston in the shower, and I've now pronounced you Chuck and Larry. That's where he was during both movies.
I ask you guys to talk about the good parts of Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and I come back to I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry. Yes, this movie is gay.
They did give, I like that they gave Luther more of a necessary role too, because Benji needs his help to pull off the plan in the beginning of the movie. And then Brant needs his help to aid Ethan towards the end. He's like, "Hey man, I don't trust you, and I'm not going to help you." And he's like, "Well, it's the CIA we're talking about, so they're going to kill him." And then a bit later, when they're in the office, and Brant's like, "Man, I don't see how you're going to find him where they went." And he's like, "Found her in like 2 seconds."
Oh, Luther is, you know what? I'm so happy. And you mentioned last week that Luther is going to be more integral to the team as we move forward. He's just, Ving Rhames is going to be around a lot now.
Yeah, he's for me is a mainstay in these movies. It's like it was such a, like I was enjoying Ghost Protocol while I was watching it, but I was nagged by like, where's Luther? Because I didn't know the story that he wasn't going to be in it. And then at the end, I'm like, okay, this is either a scheduling conflict or a pay dispute. And sure enough, it was a pay dispute. But I like that the studio listened because the fans complained. They brought him back and gave him a bigger role. So that was good.
Well, I'm just happy to have him back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, for continuity throughout the series.
Like when he says, and sometimes Ethan is the only one capable of seeing the only way.
Right.
Well, and there's a brilliant moment where he's like, okay, I know Ethan. I don't know you. Yeah. And if I think that you are not on his side, and he doesn't say anything, and it's like,
doesn't need to.
I believe you.
Yeah, I believe it.
But then you get the payoff when they're the odd bickering couple driving around looking for Ethan and Benji.
Yeah, but that's like Sam and Bucky. But like there is a moment where like I think that the performances are good. I think the continuity is good. I think that we have gotten a little formulaic in the series. I don't know. We'll see what happens the next time.
Scotty, I would assume that this is going to be this way for the rest of it.
No, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'm pretty
sure.
And
this is the thing. This is for people who have been following along. Is that me and Steve at this point? Steve and I apologize. I want to be grammatically correct. Is that like at this point we haven't seen any of the rest of these movies? Like you guys, like Kat,
you just want to be programmatically correct.
Ernesto, Kat, you guys have seen all of these, right?
Yes.
Yeah, multiple times.
Multiple times.
Yeah, several times.
This is the first time for me. It's the first time for Steve. That's why it's exciting for me because I'm like, okay.
I'm gonna Papa looking you having your first time.
Well, if I were gonna lose my virginity in an orgy, I'm glad that it's this one.
Oh, that's how Paramount plays the tip, and you fell right on it.
Well, it is a mountain.
Indeed.
All the stars
and stripes.
Oh, my stars.
So I gotta ask now.
Yes.
In the battle between Rogue Nation and Spectre, which do you think is better?
You know what? All of my bullshit, I'm still going to say Rogue Nation.
I'm going to say Rogue Nation. What about you, Steve?
Agreed. Rogue Nation.
Yeah, this is better.
Well, that's my handle says I like it Rogue.
All right. Oh, yeah. So we all voted. Yeah. And even some of the most proficient Bond podcasters I listen to, they're like, yeah, this is the year that Ethan Hunt beat Bond. It's like the same plot. And you can see how you mentioned the incestuous thing with the screenwriters, how it's like, okay, so you have this movie, Rogue Nation, and then you have Spectre, and then, like you said, Scott, the Scovia Accords in Civil War the following year. It's almost like because screenwriters talk to each other, they know what's going on and what these movies are sure. How they borrow from each other, and it feels like that's kind of they steal from each other. Yeah, and that's what's kind of going on.
Yeah. Comics do it every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, I guess ratings. Scott, what do you give it?
Hang on a second. I got to check my previous. I do. Remember when we used to review things and I didn't keep the scores? I got to see.
I wrote down.
I'm giving this movie 6.5.
Okay, Steve.
I will give it. What do we give it at? Fuses or matches or
fuses?
Fuses.
I will give this a solid 7 fuses.
Yeah, you gay.
Gay too.
I got a 0.5 differential between you, and I'm just so angry. I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Armando.
Well, it's pretty. I know we were gonna save rankings till the end, but this one's just gonna pretty much give it away right off the bat. I give this a 9.5.
Oh my!
This is. I'm just gonna say right now. This is the best one for me in the franchise. This is my favorite. This has everything, and not a lot of it, but I'm gonna say a lot of it has to do with the chemistry with Ilsa Faust and Ethan Hunt.
I can see why. I can see why this one would, like I said, this is right up there with number 1 for me.
You can change it. You can change, Steve.
No.
Go up.
I still think it's. I still think 1 is better, but
I just think this one just had it all. The execution was practically pitch perfect, and the tense scene in the third act when they're sitting at the table with Benji strapped with the bombs, and there's that moment where he leaves and Ethan and Ilsa just share this look, and for whatever reason I felt the movie was going to cut right there and say to be continued, because the pacing was so well that I thought that it was already 3 hours later and the movie is still going, and then it keeps going to the next sequence. I'm like, oh my god, this movie is my favorite of the franchise back then, and it's still the same now.
You know, it's interesting. I didn't get to say this earlier, but I didn't feel the runtime. The runtime, I think, is 2 hours and 11 minutes, which makes us one of the longer, I believe, one of the longer movies.
Yeah, they're all pretty much the same.
They're right in there. They're all kind of right in there, right? But I didn't feel the runtime.
It kept going and going, and I did not want it to stop.
Yeah, I didn't feel the runtime in this one. The pacing was way better than Ghost Protocol.
Yeah, everything was everything. It's like 9.5. What more can I say? I fucking love this movie.
You guys make me want to drop it to a 6.
Scott, what you have the ratings there from last week, Scott?
Yeah.
What did I give Ghost Protocol?
8.
I'll give this a 9. I really like this movie. I like that it's got more little subplots going on. It's more cat and mouse puzzle boxy than the previous one was. Much better villain than the fourth one. And I really enjoyed it. It's like a fun popcorn movie, which kind of these all are, but this one's a really fun one, and the pacing's great. And those banger scenes, like I was mentioning, with the primary, all that. This is I really like it. I dig it.
You know what?
Well, it was firmly outside of the 90s.
Well, I mean, right, but I also when I give it a 9, I also say that in the context of Mission Impossible movie. If it was like a regular movie, I would give it like an 8, between an 8 and 8.5, like B+ or something. But as a Mission Impossible movie, I give it a 9.
You know what? I still haven't rated another movie higher than the original.
I don't think I have either.
This
you
one
haven't.
also made just a little under, because I think what Ghost Protocol made, was it 692? I think it was, or was it 792? And then this one came away with 688.
I didn't look at the box office.
I remember, Kat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember that this movie was supposed to release later in the summer, and yet at the last minute, I guess as they were editing it, they said, you know what, this movie's going to be ready before then. Let's change the release date and release it maybe 3 months earlier.
It released July 31st, 2015.
So was it always going to be a summer, or was it going to be a fall movie? Because I remember some articles saying that it was going to release months earlier than initially projected.
Or that it did release months earlier, or that it...
Yes, that I think it was supposed to release later in the year, maybe after summer or somewhere around the summer time, that it was not the original date. And then because they were already well into the editing phase, that they decided to release it earlier. Was it Rogue Nation or was it Fallout?
I don't remember that. Let me see. Because that one released around the same time as well. But let's see. Release.
Because they made a big deal about it in the trades.
Oh, here it was. Yes, it was going to be a Christmas Day release.
Oh, damn! That's a full 6 months practically.
And then the reason they moved it up to July 31st is they did not want to compete with the Force Awakens and Spectre.
Okay, that was smart.
Yeah,
makes
that
sense.
was smart. And,
that was smart in hindsight.
Yeah.
This one made 600. The numbers are different depending on which page on the website I go to. So between 682 and 689 million for this one, and 694 for Ghost Protocol. So
that's still not bad.
It's still not bad considering they both had $150 million budgets, which is.
But this is also I don't want to say that this is the one where Tom Cruise was confirmed to be doing all the stunts, but like I was really, really impressed at the beginning of this movie, the one that was shown in the trailers of him hanging off of the plane. I was like, I know this is gonna happen. When's it gonna happen? And it happened right away.
Yeah, right off the hop, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, shit. There is something good coming. And then the rest of the movie.
Anybody else like? Oh, yeah.
The last thing I'll say is that I did like that stunt, and I never really got to check if they used wiring or if he actually did the pull up to escape himself from the iron bar. Because I'm like, I don't know why, but I feel like that was all real.
It felt real.
Like how many, like the amount of ab crunches you have to do just to get the solid tempo to do that multiple times.
It felt like the like Stephen Amell and the Arrowverse when he's doing
exactly
the bar crawl. It felt like the same thing. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if he actually
that hammer shot to the face. That was a great fight sequence.
Well, thank you to the chat. Yes.
To Canadian Spider-Man, who says, "I wasn't even here, man."
By the way,
you know what? That was a terrible Canadian Spider-Man.
I've noticed a significant lag of Mr. Bird in the chat.
Yeah,
it might not be watching that. We don't have many people on. We had 4, and then
Mr. Bird.
Yeah, he could be listening. He could be listening in the rerun.
Yeah,
it's always You know what, Mr.
He might have he might have a life and be busy tonight. You know,
Old Man Bird is a supporter of our channel, and
we miss you.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Better be in the next one. Otherwise,
thank you, Canadian Spider-Man and DJ Play Nice. And Buckaroo Brothers, thanks for being here. Lemon Pie, always great to see you guys.
Lemon,
and yes, DJ for hitting the like and subscribe. That's fantastic.
Ka-ching.
Delightful.
Well, if nobody has anything else to say, then this mission will self-destruct in 5,
4,
3,
2.